Decoding Grammar. Active versus passive voice in English. Hello, language explorers. Welcome to another exciting episode where we unravel the mysteries of the English language. Today, we're going to dive deep into the realm of sentence structures. Specifically, we'll be comparing the active and passive voices in the context of the subject-verb-object, SVO, pattern. So, let's get started. In English, we use the active voice to express a direct action performed by a subject. This means that the subject of the sentence does the action denoted by the verb. For example, consider the sentence, John eats an apple. In this sentence, John is the subject, eats is the verb, and an apple is the object. This follows the subject-verb-object order, and John is directly doing the action. Now, let's switch gears and look at the passive voice. In passive sentences, the action is done to the subject. The subject is the receiver of the action, not the doer. Here's our previous example in the passive voice. An apple is eaten by John. You see how the subject and object have swapped places? In this case, an apple is now the subject, is eaten is the verb, and John is the agent of the action. As a rule of thumb, we use the active voice when we want to emphasize the actor or the doer of the action, and the passive voice when the focus is more on the action or the receiver of the action. For instance, in a news report, we might say, the bank was robbed yesterday. Here, the action, the robbery, is more important than who did it, so we use the passive voice. On the other hand, if we want to stress on the doer of the action, we might say, Detective Miller solved the case. Here, Detective Miller's achievement is being highlighted, so we use the active voice. Transforming sentences from active to passive, and vice versa, is a useful skill to have. Let's take a look at how we do it. To change an active sentence to passive, we swap the subject and object, and use an appropriate form of the verb, to be, followed by the past participle of the main verb. For example, the active sentence, Jane writes a letter, would become, a letter is written by Jane, in the passive voice. Conversely, to change a passive sentence to active, we swap the subject and the agent, remove the verb, to be, and replace the past participle with the base form of the verb. So, the passive sentence, the book was read by Sarah, would become, Sarah read the book, in the active voice. And that's a wrap on our exploration of the active and passive voices in the English language. Remember, understanding and using these correctly can make your English clearer and more versatile. Keep practicing, and you'll master these concepts in no time. As always, thanks for tuning in, and we hope this episode was helpful. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you in our next grammar adventure.